Dubs Talk brought to you by Mancini Sleep World with the Warriors insider Monte Poole. I'm Kerith Burke. We have to figure out where we're going to start after this 51-point loss. You know, I think I'm going to start in the third quarter. The score was 96-50 when the Golden State Warriors subbed out at 5:09 in the third quarter. So the white flag went up pretty early. You could rewind to halftime and say, oh man, this game was over. Sometimes it's a tale of two halves. We could tell right away, not in this game. You could even rewind back to the first quarter when the Warriors were down 37-15. You're shaking it first quarter? You knew in the first quarter this was toast. Okay, tell me why.
Yeah. You know how there's been so much talk about the Dallas game and how they didn't set a defensive tone early in the game. And, you know, and I asked Steve Kerr a couple of days ago, you know, can you do that without Draymond Green in the starting lineup? And he said, good question, and led to the belief that maybe Draymond will be back in the starting lineup. He was. The defensive tone never showed up. I don't know whether it stayed on the bus or stayed in San Francisco or what, but it never showed up. And the offense didn't help the defense with all those turnovers. 8 turnovers in the first quarter, giving those Grizzlies 12 points. And the Warriors shot 17% from the field in the first quarter. So nothing went well in the first quarter. And when you're down 22 after one quarter, you can tell yourself we can get back into it. But you also know that, my goodness, we just came out here wanting to set a tone early and did the exact opposite.
Yeah,
and so you know.
Sorry to interrupt you. 4 of 22 in that first quarter. Yeah. So nothing was going right. And I do see this as connected to that Mavericks game, that Mavericks loss. The Mavericks scored 143 points. So you figure, okay, it can't be that bad again. The Grizzlies came out and scored 144. And thinking back after that Mavericks loss, Steve Kerr said they controlled the game the entire night. Draymond said we've got to set a defensive tone. What is really concerning is that Mavericks game was Sunday. This Grizzlies game is today, Thursday. 3 days in between. A day off, a scrimmage, a practice. Plenty of time to regroup. Plenty of time to be like, wow, that Mavericks game, we were playing from behind. It was just a bad night. Luka was amazing. You know, the Mavs are on an upswing. All of these things that you can kind of say to toss that game away. To have this type of game, to not even be competitive at the start, that's the alarm bell for me.
Well, yeah, and you can even go back to the game against Houston when they lost to Houston, so they bounced out of the NBA Cup tournament. So that goes back more than a week ago now. That was last Wednesday, 8 days ago. And so they've had one game in 8 days or 7 days, and they've had practice time before Dallas and after Dallas. And to come out and go on the road and put this kind of performance on the court, you know, I'm not ready to say, okay, you know, panic time, you know, blow things up. I'm not ready to overreact, but I'm like this, you know, because this next game I think will tell a story. Will they come out upset and angry and sort of, okay, you know what happened on Thursday in Memphis? That wasn't us. If they come out Thursday, I don't even care if they win or lose. Let's see how they play.
It's the competitive. Yeah, they could have lost to the Grizzlies, a very good team, if it was a competitive game.
You wouldn't be feeling this way.
It was not.
Right. Yeah. No, not from the start. Very start. And so if they're able to do something on Saturday in Minnesota's a good team, but they can be had. I mean, the Warriors split with them at home here a couple of weeks ago. So if they can go to Minnesota and put up a competitive performance, even if they don't win, okay, then the sky isn't falling. But if they get blown out again, the sky is because you got to ask yourself where we're going with this, you know. And if you're Mike Dunleavy, the general manager, you can't just think, okay, I can make one trade and fix all of this because it's not like that. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, another mistake-prone game as well for the Warriors. The turnovers in this one, they handed another team more than 30 points off of turnovers, and they just look discombobulated. And some of that is trying to fold a new player into the starting lineup. I'm not saying this is on Dennis Schröder at all. Like, I don't even think we can assess this guy's game tonight because the whole team was so bad. But it's not easy, again, having no consistency in the starting lineup. Once again, I think this was their 16th different starting lineup in 26 games. It was Steph, Schröder, Wiggins, Draymond, and Looney. And actually looking at that as a snapshot, you think, okay, Draymond's in there for the defensive tone. Schröder's in there to help organize. Steph can play more off ball. I liked how all of this looked.
Yes, yeah.
But when you go 4 of 22 in the first quarter, is that a spacing issue? Is that an effort issue? Is that just not players in sync just yet? Understandably?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, first of all, when you commit 8 turnovers, you don't get into a rhythm because you're too busy going the other way, and you're going the other way too late because the Grizzlies are already off and running. So that's the thing about, you can set a defensive tone, but you immediately destroy it when you give the ball to the other team too quickly. And so if you take away those 12 points in the first quarter, the Grizzlies have 25 points. Now, I'm not saying they're going to play a perfect first quarter, but they got 12 off turnovers. If you get 25 points, you don't shoot the same percentages because you're not getting the free and open shots. You're not getting all those. They shot 9 of 10 on fast break points. Some of those fast break points were coming off turnovers. So you didn't give your defense a chance to do well because your offense stunk it up. And part of that was, Memphis has a good defense. They're very physical. Yeah. They were doing all kinds of things to Steph. They were top locking him. They were face guarding him. They were grabbing him, touching him, all those things. And so I like the idea, like you said, I like the idea of putting Dennis on the ball. Let Steph go off the ball and do his thing. Theoretically, okay, let's do this because Dennis is pretty good at that. But it was pretty clear that he wasn't ready to quite get that rhythm that this team needs with him at the start. And I think at some point it will happen. I wasn't stunned. I was mildly surprised that he started this game. I knew he would start at some point. Yeah. I'm a little surprised he started tonight, but I guess they wanted to get let's look at it right now, see what we have. And I would think at this point you still start him again in the next game on Saturday.
I would think so too.
But you're right. It's unfair to say, well, Schröder stunk it up tonight, so it's a bad trade. You can't look at this game and say, well, that's who he is, because it's not.
No, it's not. And I'm always curious after a game like this to see what version of Steve Kerr do we get. He's not, hellfire all the time. But would he be really ticked off publicly after this game, especially considering how the Mavs game went, or would he be more subdued? Take a listen.
What was the most disappointing aspect of tonight's loss?
It was just a humbling night all around. I mean, they took it to us. They were great. We, just couldn't get anything going first quarter. They took us out of their stuff. They did a great job defensively, and everything just went south from there. So, give them credit. But we got a lot of work to do. Clearly.
When you say it's humbling, does that mean you can take things from this experience and move forward from it?
Humbling means what it means, right? You lose by 51. That's humbling. So, what I know about this team, I mean, that's the second time we've been blown out. We got blown out in Cleveland early in the season. So I know who we are. I know what our team is about. I know we've got competitors. I know we're going to bounce back and we're going to regroup. So I'm not concerned about that, but we got a lot of work to do to execute and learn how to execute under pressure and take care of the ball and get good shots. And so we'll, as I said, regroup tomorrow in Minneapolis and have a practice and get ready to go Saturday.
Steve, how much of this was trying to incorporate Dennis, a new player, into the mix, or just the cumulative effect of losing 9 of 11 now?
I mean, Dennis looked like a guy on a new team. I mean, it's always very difficult to get traded mid-season and play with a brand new group and have different terminology and all that stuff. But look, they did a great job on Steph, denying him everywhere, making his every catch difficult. And so this was about Memphis. They've been one of the hottest teams in the league, and they played a great game. They made 27 threes, 27 for 48. But it was their defense early on that took us out of what we were trying to do, and I give them credit for it. And we've lost 9 out of 11. So we're reeling, and we gotta get it back clearly.
Humbling makes a lot of sense there. All right, so we got a calm, let's move on kind of Steve Kerr. I would actually guess, and sometimes what a coach says publicly is different than the message he gives to his team in the locker room. I would actually guess after a game like this, Steve was the same way with media as he was with his team, like a let's move on kind of thing. And I say that because the players would feel bad enough They don't need a coach to yell at them.
Right.
This is one of those games where you sort of marinate in your
Yes.
own, wow, that was bad. Wow. And maybe the players talk amongst themselves after this one. Because
Yeah.
when you've lost 9 of the last 11 games, what's a coach barking at you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably comes in with a message along the lines of, you guys are better than this. You know you're better than this. I know you're better than this. So this is not us, okay? But, I mean, the fact remains that you're blown off the floor in a game that you knew meant something.
Yeah.
You wanted to get the energy off of having a new guy come onto your team and kind of ride that wave, because this was a little bit of a restart for the team after those days off and after the last game against Dallas where they were blown off the floor. So instead they get blown out. And I don't know what's more surprising is that, you know, Steph not getting a field goal in the whole game, or John Morant not being a big part of this.
Okay.
You know, the Grizzlies who blew the Warriors off the floor were really not, it was like the other guys.
It was the bench.
Yeah, it was
the
the
Grizzlies
other
bench.
guys.
Yeah.
Ja had 9 points. So if somebody said, okay, before the game, Ja's going to score 9 points. If you're a Warriors fan, you're thinking, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Didn't work out at all.
Yeah, Steph 0 for 7, 0 for 6. Draymond, though, we need to mention Draymond as well. 0 for 4, 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 4 turnovers, 4 fouls. So we're talking about statistically some of the worst games these guys have had individually, these guys have had together. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get to some of the questions from social media. Dennis Schröder, though, 22 minutes, 2 of 12, 0 for 4. 5 assists, 4 turnovers. So I know we're throwing a lot of numbers at you, but there was so much curiosity about how would his first game be. It was a struggle, but that fit inside of a very big, larger team struggle tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, he didn't play well, but who did?
Nobody.
You know, well, I mean, Wiggins played well offensively. Podziemski played well garbage time mostly, you know. So, but aside from that, the offense, take away Wiggins and Brandon, and the Warriors shot 26% from the field. 26.
Yeah.
That's a crazy number. And so those two guys kind of held up what little offense there was. They kind of held it up. But they can't even say they played well given the overall scope of the game.
I will take it back. Andrew Wiggins played well. He got this started. Didn't he have 3 of the 4 made field goals in the first quarter?
Yes.
Like somebody came engaged. And it was Andrew
he had 8
Wiggins.
points in the first quarter.
But it can't be 1 against 5. So, all right, we're still trying to make sense of this game. We need your help. We have some questions for social media. Plus, we need to talk about what's going on with this Jonathan Kuminga situation, because if Draymond goes back in the starting lineup, Kuminga's off the bench, this is going to be a season-long thing.
Dubs Talk Live is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Visit Mancini Sleep World for the year-end clearance sale. Save big on premium mattresses plus free delivery. Hurry in now or visit us online at sleepworld.com.
This show, after that type of game, you are a true blue fan, and we want to thank you for tuning in.
Card-carrying member of Dub
Woo!
Nation.
Carol says, I don't know what to say. And Carol, let me tell you, as somebody who has to talk for 30 minutes about this game, we agree. And somehow we're getting it done. Bree, it's always nice to see your name in there. She says, I don't think we have questions. People need to go.
People need to go.
People need to go. I don't think the panic meter has hit that point yet.
Tonight it looked like it, yes. But, you know, this is one of, 26 games.
26 games.
So this is not like a 26 games problem. This is a small snippet of a problem that we've seen over the past few weeks, though. And it's just that when you lose by 51, there's all kinds of fingers that can point. You know, okay, did you do this, do this, do this? Just like you don't overreact to one win, you don't do it to one loss. Excuse me.
It's okay. Yeah, I got you. Well, and you know what? I do, like, listen, when they've lost 9 out of their last 11, when you go from 12-3 to 14-12, this does start to feel a little bit like a free fall. Or how do they brace? How do they catch themselves? I know you're going to be looking at that next game. I'm going to look at this one. This game for me is the point that I'm going to come back to again and again this season. Did they correct course from here? Because they made a change. They have Dennis here. Can he help them? This to me is the pivot point of the season to determine, is this a team on the rise or is this a team going down? And are we going to have to start talking about whether they're at 500 above or below this season like we did last season?
Yeah. I mean, and to think that this was a team that was, the great start, 12-3, and since then, it's just been so tough. You're
Woof.
2-9 since then.
Yeah.
So.
Welcome back to Dubs Talk Live, brought to you by Mancini Sleep World. With Draymond Green going back into the starting lineup, that means Jonathan Kuminga goes back to the bench. There's been a bit of a yo-yo for him this season, and I just see this as a Jonathan Kuminga puzzle, Monte. Where does he fit? What is his role going to be? And maybe more importantly, what else does the team, specifically the front office, need to see from him this year?
Okay, first of all, when the Warriors were at their best earlier this season, he was coming off the bench. He and Buddy Hield were dynamic off the bench together. And that's when the Warriors bench was like, oh, we love this bench. Yes, we love this bench. And the team was winning and all going well. Now, tonight, when Draymond Green entered the starting lineup, re-entered the starting lineup, I should say, you kind of knew somebody's going to be out. And J.K. was the obvious guy you would think would be out because J.K.'s a 4, according to Steve Kerr, and Draymond's a 4. He doesn't want to start Draymond at the 5 unless it's like a really emergency situation. This wasn't an emergency yet. So, but yeah, the whole goal of having J.K. start was to kind of give him a little mental boost as well as giving him an opportunity to show what he can do with the starting lineup. And tonight, coming off the bench, he wasn't very good, 2 of 12 from the field. There was some confusion on his part. But they want to know what they'll have in him. And is he too good to not trade? Too good, so good he can't be traded? Or is he good, but not good enough to be untouchable?
Okay.
And these are things they're trying to figure out now. They need to figure these things out because, at the end of the season, he can be a restricted free agent. And so they can basically lose him. The question is, are they willing to stand for that? I don't think they are.
Yeah.
So I think something will have to happen with him, whether they decide to keep him or not. I think a decision will be made sometime between now and the trade deadline because it's hard to imagine them. They'll just write it out. If the team is playing like this, they're not going to write it out. They'll figure out something to do. And it's hard to believe that any move that's seismic won't involve J.K. in some form.
Okay. I mean, one of the reasons they don't want Draymond to play at the 5 is because then you have to match up like somebody like Zach Edey, who's 7'3". He's listed at 299. So I'm like, give the guy a glass of water and just round it up to 300.
Three
like
bills.
299 was like, are you serious? After a game like this, sometimes we need your help with things that we can talk about. We want to hear from the fans. We put the question out to Blue Sky, like, what are you, roll into these for me, will you? Because we need some help. What is our first question coming tonight from Blue Sky? It says, defense, where did it go? Turnover, shot selection, where to begin? And you're right, Mylan, is to focus on this because the Warriors were one of the best defensive teams in the league. Were they number 1 or number 2 in defensive rating?
Early.
And that has slipped.
Yeah, they've been top 5. We were top 5 most of the season, or top 3 most of the season. Yeah, it's all slipped. The defense has slipped. The offense has slipped. And the thing is, just 3 weeks ago, we were talking about how great a job Jerry Stackhouse was doing. He comes in and guys are responding to him, and he's in their faces and they're responding to it. And now it just looks like it's not happening. And, I thought tonight when Draymond went back in the starting lineup, okay, let's see what we got. And it wasn't there. It just wasn't there. So you can't fix a defense with one move. You can help a defense with one move. You can't fix an offense with one move, like the Schröder. So, but defensively, you can't give put your defense in position where they're trying to stop ball from turnovers. Live ball turnovers kill a defense. I asked Steph about this maybe a month ago. I said, what do live ball turnovers do to a defense? He goes, it makes it impossible.
Demoralizing.
Yeah, it makes it impossible because the ball's going the other way and you can't set up a defense. And so tonight, 12 of those points in the first quarter, there you go, live ball turnovers. And you can't defend that because you don't have a chance. Even your transition defense, there were a couple of times tonight when the transition defense was just late. But you can't always expect your transition defense to save you when the ball is going that way all the time. And that's the problem they're having right now. I think Schröder in time, these turnovers tonight, 4 turnovers, that's not him. I think that'll get fixed. But again, he's with new guys and trying to figure out some things here. So that'll get fixed. But So you got turnovers. That's an issue. Mila, I'm sorry, but that's an issue. And also we got the defense is not there. But keep in mind that turnovers can kill a defense. So the defensive numbers look bad enough, but turnovers make them look worse.
Yeah. Of course, people are more interested, continue to be interested in, could more guys come to Golden State? What about our pal, Jimmy Butler? What is that question? When does Jimmy Butler get here is the question. Like, it's a foregone conclusion. The Warriors would really have to. This would be a blow up the team move for what the Heat would want in exchange for Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
Is it possible?
Everything that I've heard, whispered, rumored, all combined, leads me to believe that this is like a move the Warriors are not inclined to make.
Okay.
Because, from what I'm hearing, the reasoning is that they're a little skittish about his availability. He misses a lot of games. That's his problem that he ran into with Pat Riley in Miami, is that, Jimmy, we love you, but where are you? And I think if they knew they were getting Jimmy Butler, who's going to play 90% of the games,
Sure.
that's a different deal.
Okay.
But he's in for a few games. He's out for a few games. And so I think the Warriors have dealt with enough of that over the past couple of years, guys who are in and out. And they just lost Melton. They knew coming in that there was a chance because he had the back issue. It wasn't his back, it was a knee. But they knew, okay, there's a little bit of a risk here. And I don't think they're inclined to take that risk with Jimmy, that he'll come in and be great for a couple of weeks and then maybe get hurt or something will happen and he's gone again. So availability is a big thing here. And you saw them hurt with Wiggins, the last couple of years when he was not around. So I think that to me, that's credible. When you hear that they're a little worried about his availability. I get that.
He shows up for the postseason. The Warriors would have to make it to the postseason.
Yeah.
You also mentioned
he's at his
something
best in the
interesting.
postseason. How that works, huh? Yeah.
What about a reunion between Andrew Wiggins and Jimmy Butler? That would be interesting to me.
Oh, the Minnesota teammates. Yeah.
Hold on. Let's table that. Table that. We need to get to the next question because people are, after this game, people are taking a look at Steph and Draymond. Is it possible Steph and Dre just don't have it at this point in their careers? It's feeling like they only have energy every other game or two. I always think it's fair to ask for players as they get older. You can examine where their careers are now, how they're playing. Steph and Draymond, to me, are a special case because I feel like if they were, is it surrounded by the right pieces or something? Like, these guys still have it. Their competitiveness will never cease, even if their bodies are just a tick slower.
Yeah, and they are right now. I mean, I looked at this game and I'm watching this game and, seeing Steph not get a field goal, it's like, whoa,
That is weird.
Yeah, and then but I looked back and, his last 7 or 8 games, his 3-point shots been there 40% throughout pretty much. But aside from that, his offense has not been what you usually expect from him. And, we know there's been some knee issues with both knees, and there's stuff going on physically, and you don't know how much of an effect that is having on him because, as you know and I know, Steph does not even want to acknowledge an injury.
Nope.
Are you okay? Yep. Ankle.
Same with Draymond.
Yeah,
same with Draymond.
Exactly. They don't want to acknowledge an injury. So, yet at the same time, you can't help but wonder when these things go like this, if maybe there's something going on that they're playing through. And I just think that in the case of these two guys, it's too soon to write them off. They've done too much. And again, they're not at a point where they can't do it anymore. They might be at a point, though, where they can't do it anymore as frequently as they once did, as regularly as consistently as they once did. I think you'll see those guys come back. I don't think this is like, well, we're seeing the beginning of the end here.
Right.
I don't buy that.
Yes, I don't either. And I don't want to judge them based on one terrible game either. All right, coming up next on Dubs Talk Live, brought to you by Mancini Sleep World, we are moving on to Minnesota, a look at the schedule, which actually has a little favor for the Warriors. All right. Carol's back in my line of sight. She says, I said the same thing last 2 games. Curry and Draymond looked like they ran out of gas on the court. Well, one of the things that hurt Draymond in this game was picking up 4 fouls pretty early.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of your live ball turnover thing. When you see what's going to be either an easy layup ahead of you or your opponent's going to dunk, why even jog up the court? It's the demoralizing type of thing. And you know what? I think in previous years we couldn't really blame Steph or Draymond, but they have also had their stinkers of games or their share of these turnovers.
Yeah, even in the best years.
Yeah.
Even in the best years. I mean, What years ago? That was 21, I think it was, when the Warriors were in the play-in tournament, and they didn't get out of the play-in tournament. They lost back-to-back
That was the
games.
first play-in tournament,
Yeah,
right? That was
they lost back. Yes, they lost back. They also
Okay.
the Lakers and the Grizzlies, I think it was.
Yes, it was, yeah.
And both cases, the great Draymond and Steph were turnover. And so we've seen that before. And then what happens the next year?
Championship.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So I'm not going to write them off yet. And I think that they both know their bodies. They both know their bodies aren't what they used to be. They're compensating for that. Steve Kerr is trying to keep an eye on their minutes. And tonight Steph played 24. Draymond played 19 because they were blown off the floor.
Yeah, taking
And I
on the
think
third quarter.
in some ways, that those low minutes could be a blessing in disguise, or as Steve Kerr likes to say, a silver lining there, because you got another game coming in, and it's going to be a tough game in a tough place. We'll see.
Yeah. So they won one. They lost the first one because I remember Anthony Edwards barking on the
He
court.
was very happy.
But the response was very good.
Yes.
The Warriors had a good response. So that's what concerned me here. After that Mavericks game,
Yeah.
the response here
No,
was not very good.
not there. It was awful.
Thank you for watching Dubs Talk. All right, let's go to the schedule. The next 8 of 9 games are at home. That's the little favor that the Warriors have coming up here. So they're at the Wolves, and they've got Pacers, Lakers at Christmas, at the Clippers. So even for that road trip, they get to stay in the state of California. Suns and Cavs will round out the new year. Do you think being at home could do anything to change the fortune?
To me, that's the important stretch. That's the defining stretch of the schedule right there. If they win, and 8 home games, I think, in that stretch between next Monday and January 7. If they go 6-2 or something like that, I think, okay, you can be optimistic. But if they go 4-4 or 3-5,
But even, don't you feel like for this team right now, 4-4 would be good? Or I know you need more than 500.
yeah, but 4-4 is not telling you that you're fine.
Yeah.
You want to know that either you're fine or you're not.
Yeah.
4-4 is telling you, oh, we're still the same.
We're average.
Yeah,
We're
and that
mid.
ain't going to work for these guys. That's not the way they think, and it's not what Steph wants to be. It's
know.
not what Draymond wants to be, and it's not what Joe Lacob or Steve Kerr or Mike Dunleavy want to be.
I just feel like to crawl out of this kind of hole right now, and I say losing 9 of 11, we know the Warriors are still above 500, but this snapshot of this kind of hole, even 4-4 is like, okay, you win some, you lose some, but it's not good enough because
No.
that is average. They
No.
don't want to be an average team.
Yeah, and again, the home games. If you go 4-4 at home, it's not 4-4 overall. You got to be. You want to win at home.
Yeah.
And split on the road.
Okay, tough teams. Pacers. The Cavaliers coming, the best team. Okay.
It'll be easy.
A 51-point loss. So we look to see how the Warriors respond. Thanks for watching. This has been Dubs Talk, brought to you by Mancini Sleep World. Let me see. My dad sent me a text. He said I can't watch this anymore. But he said he would tune in. He said he would tune in for our show. So thank you for watching. Yeah, and my dad just sent this text. So let's pretend this came in the YouTube. Why do other NBA teams find big men, but the Warriors can't?
I get that question probably more than any other question from fans.
It's been a question since I've covered this
Exactly.
team.
And that's my response is that
Yeah.
I've been saying that for years. And in that time, they've had some success. They've had some up years, some down years. So, yeah,
I guess Looney's big enough.
he has been.
Yeah.
He has been in the past. And I said, yeah,
Trace?
when they drafted James Wiseman,
Yeah.
they thought, okay, he's our big man of the future. He's 7 feet, a good athlete, both true.
Yes.
But he was still learning how to play basketball. In some ways, he was like Kuminga when Kuminga first came in. You can see the athleticism there, you can see the possibilities there, but he has been injured so much early in his career. You don't know if he'll ever get a chance to really be what we thought he could be. Yeah. And he's out again this year. So I feel bad for him, but for a while there, they thought, here's our guy. Mm-hmm. Here's the big man. He runs the court like a gazelle. He can dunk. He can shoot. We'll teach him to play defense. And they gave up on him after a year and a half, basically 2 years. So it didn't work out, and doesn't mean they don't want another big man, but I think they have to at least think about that now.
Yeah.
Steve Kerr admitted when they lost to Dallas the other night that Dallas's size was a problem. Mm-hmm. they got smashed on the boards against Dallas. And tonight, again, 60-36 on the boards. So
I distinctly remember that number 2 pick. We were talking about how having the number 2 pick can be franchise changing, and the fact that the Warriors had needed size even before the Wiseman pick. They thought they found their guy. Maybe that draft class wasn't so strong or whatever, but they thought Wiseman was going to be their guy, and it just didn't work out. His injuries, though, even if he wanted a chance to shine, he got so limited by those injuries.
yeah, I mean,
heartbreaking too.
every time you think, okay, he's getting a little momentum going,
turn the corner.
something
Yeah.
would happen, you know.
Yeah.
And so imagine if that happened to Jonathan Kuminga. You know, if he's kept getting injured, where would he be now? So we've seen him take incremental steps to improvement. But, you know, imagine if he was getting injured every other month or whatever it is, you know, and so where would he be then? So James Wiseman never had that chance, and so they're still on the hunt for a big man. Sometimes they look for one really hard. Sometimes they look for one and think, no, we're good where we are. And right now, it's getting harder for them to say, we're good where we are.
Yeah, that feels unsatisfactory. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. Dad, good night. I'll let you know when I get home. Bye.